Chris Hardawin in the hall. Here he comes. He's a senior electronics engineer for Spin Master Toys, 15-year veteran of the toy industry, and he specializes in high-tech toys and robotics. Melissa Jawaharlal. There we go. She's the CEO and co-founder of STEM Center USA, robotics and STEM education specialist, led a hugely successful Kickstarter campaign for the PiBot, Reinventing Robotics Education. This is Nick Testanero. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I said to everyone, what I like on panels is not the pre-digested thing you always say, but piggyback on each other's stuff, ask each other questions. Hopefully everybody gets something new today, including you guys. So, my first question to each of you is a bit about your path to the work that you do today. I always like that kind of question because it gets to sort of the personal rather than the theoretical. But when there's young people in the audience, I think it's even more important to find out that, I always ask this on my radio show, no one does the normal path. No one that's successful enough to be on the radio did it the way anyone expected. They all say it was this happy accident followed by that coincidence, etc. So let's start with you, Chris. Briefly, your path to the work you're doing today.
So it was a little bit of an unusual path for me, and it's funny because I graduated from Carnegie Mellon University, so I went the professional route of trying to become a real engineer before getting into toys. And the moment I told someone, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start working in the toy industry, they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, wait, why does that make sense? And they were like, well, you know, you used to take apart your toys when you were a kid and stuff like that. Like, you never had a toy that was always together. There was like the island of misfit toys. Everything was kludged together. So I think actually being sort of a young maker back in the 80s kind of led me to being in the toy industry. It's a very novel and exciting and trend-based and always changing industry. So that was very exciting.
And that's the industry you went into at the start?
Right out of college, yeah.
And here you are.
Well, you know, the dot-com crash helped push me out of traditional engineering, so I didn't really have many options. It was either, at that time, it was either military robots or toys. And I was like, well, either way, there's going to be drones, so I might as well make the ones that are friendly.
Okay,
yeah.
Very good. Melissa.
Thank you for having me. I am also an engineer. I'm a mechanical, astronautical engineering background. I graduated from USC not too long ago. And I fell in love with engineering early on. I am a big, proud nerd. I love building. I love designing. And my dream job as a child was to be an astronaut. I also am very blind, so apparently you're not allowed to go to space if you can't see too well. So I worked as an engineer for a while, and I started creating robot kits. I started teaching classes, and created my own company to do both of those things that I love so much. So today we offer programs to kindergartners all the way up to college students, and I get to play all day doing what I love.
Very good. Okay, Nick.
I'm a marketing person with a technical background, so I've always been intrigued by making things that people really want. One of the problems we all face every day is we are given things that we don't necessarily want, but we think we do. So I started out making medical devices all the way up to now. I bought a company a few years back that made labels. And you think, wow, that's kind of pretty cool because it's the creative, it's the art portion of the, you saw the previous discussion. The difference is that now we're using technology to go along with the art. And we really got into discovering the tap for more when you see it later and how we can use mobile technology to display that art, to expand that experience. And I think what's really important for all of you is to not just focus on the generic, but to really get inside your heart and soul, because that's what people want, and that's what they're going to pay a lot of money for, and that's what they're going to buy a lot of.
Okay. And you said we're going to see something later?
Yeah, we do have it. It's on display in there. Everybody's getting one. Actually, everybody's name tag, if you tapped on it right now with an Android device or a Nokia device, someday one of those fruit devices. But Today, you can only pay with the fruit device. You can't explore. But it's next door, and you're all going to get samples if you want them. So thanks.
Very good. Okay, let's talk a bit about the term maker. Would a couple of you tell us how you define a maker or the maker movement? And here's my question. When did you realize you were a maker? Any of you? What does the term mean to you, and when did you realize you were one?
To me, the term maker has to do with the sense of accomplishment, right? So maker revolves around do it yourself, getting something done or creating it yourself, inventing, innovating. And that sense of accomplishment, I think a lot of times you feel in sports. You go out, you play a basketball game, you feel good, right? You did something, you feel that sweat, whatever it is, or whatever it is. I never felt that same sense of accomplishment at the end of an exam or the SATs. And so with Maker and with this whole Maker movement, we're pushing our students and ourselves as adults. There's no age limit on being a maker, or minimum age, I guess, required as well. So when did I first figure out I was a maker? I didn't know the word until a couple years ago, maybe. I had a student once ask me when you become an engineer, and it's not when you get a degree. It's whenever you start innovating and inventing on your own. So if you're already doing that in school, you're all makers. I think I am. I hope I am.
Okay. Someone else, your sense of it.
For myself, it was, you can sit down and look at a drawing, you can sit down and look at different things, and you can have those meetings, but when it finally gets put together and you see the sense that the group around you, no matter what the age group is, but especially in a manufacturing company, seeing the looks on the faces of those people when they finally accomplished a prototype and the customer's in love with it, and then they take it to the next step to the manufacturing, I have to tell you, watching that on their faces, it's where it's all at. And it's really an important thing. For myself, it was, it started out building little things, and Lego is a classic of it. Kids start with Legos and they end up getting that, and you can see that they love to put things together.
Any thoughts?
Maker. I think we use the word maker because the word doer is just kind of hard to say. And really, to me, that's what a maker is. A maker is someone who has the will to do something and they do it. And I loved what Brenton was saying about the whole STEAM thing, that we are incorporating art into that, because it really is just about, getting off the couch and going and doing something, whether it's innovating something new in gardening, whether it's making a new toy, whether it's coming up with a new robot, or even a new type of label. It doesn't matter, but just go and do things, because the tools are so simple nowadays. It's almost silly not to do something, not to make your own things.
Very good. How have robotics, gaming, toys changed since your childhood? I'll start with you, Nick.
Well, it's been a long time on those for me, but
you and me too.
For ourselves, from the one thing that hasn't changed, they just look a little better, and they're now all made out of plastic. But the building, whether it's blocks, whether all of those things conceptually are still the same. And but now we obviously embrace technology, all the way through mobile devices, games. I kind of I'm still a person that likes the outdoor games, not as big on just sitting there in front of a screen, because I'm a little worried that doesn't really pull your creativity outside of you. I think that when you're just sitting there and you're doing that, you're not necessarily in the making mode. You're not using all of your senses. But it has advanced to where it's all about the electronics, and the making of it might have lost a little bit on the toy side. So it's good to see that some people maintain that.
Okay. Anyone else? How robotics, gaming, toys changed since your childhood?
Which wasn't too long ago for me. If you saw some of the pictures Brent had up about the Steam Carnival, that stuff didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's changed immensely. Gaming, video games, technology itself is radically different. And I think the point I want to make is, if you know who Carl Sagan is, Dr. Carl Sagan, he's one of the leading astrophysicists of our years. He had a great quote that I'd love to share, dealing with how our our world is changing so much, and we're making everything more and more dependent on that technology, whether it's our phones or our internet or our computers or our cars or our smart cars. Less and less of us know how to use that technology. But our entire society is dependent on that. So right now, as a country or as a world, we're creating a small fraction of engineers and inventors and innovators who know how to use it. So what's that going to lead to? Major, major disaster. So yes, things are so different. You're going to make things really different, and I look forward to you all learning how to make things different and creating our next inventions that we see.
Okay. What's the current state and the near-term future in the big picture and in LA in particular of wearable technology? Something that none of the three of you mentioned that you are involved in. You see, it's a trick question. This is how we get something new.
No, quite honestly, with this, with NFC and the wearable technology, that is a very big thing. We're working on large projects right now with shoe manufacturers, clothing people, all of the new, the watches, all of those types of devices. If anybody ever went to Disney World recently, I don't know whether Disneyland has it in the LA area, but Disney gives you the little wristbands. You don't need anything else. You don't need your wallet. You don't need anything else with you. The wearable technologies are going to be interesting. I know the watches are suffering a bit now because I'll bet you there's not very many people in this audience that are wearing a watch, myself included. So you're trying to get somebody to wear something they've never worn before. So the watches may be a problem, but wearable technology, I can tell you, all the major shoe manufacturers and everything, they're going to be on your shoes, in your shoes, on your watches, in your clothes. They want to know when you're in the store, what you're looking at. It's pretty powerful stuff.
And what's the benefit to the shoe wearer?
To the shoe wearer, there's going to be different experiences in the prototype area. One of the things, and it's Bluetooth, it's not NFC, but I was at a recent one, and you guys might have seen it, where with a soccer shoe, you kick a soccer ball, and via Bluetooth, inside the ball, there's a sensor for force, there's a sensor for rotation, and a sensor for speed. Transmit that information back via Bluetooth. You launch your app. I won't mention the shoe company, but you launch your app, and then Beckham comes on and tells you how to do it differently. So it's you shoot a basketball. They have the basketballs in there in the lab that we were able to use. It's really pretty cool, and it shows up on watches. It shows up on your phones. It's pretty interesting stuff, and it's next year or the year after. It's not 10 years from now. It's right now.
Either of you, anything about wearable tech?
I know that in the toy industry, obviously, we're looking at the next generation of tech for kids, and that's when you start. You start integrating tech when you're very young, and it becomes just part of your everyday life. Every child nowadays has a cell phone, whereas when I was a kid, most adults didn't have cell phones. So I think there's a lot of a future that's coming up with tech and with wearable tech. And I think I saw an interesting video once where there was a way to actually create energy through a shirt that had like carbon nano tubes in it or something like that. So there's just, material science, if you really want to get into innovation, it's great that you know how to do an app, but material science also has a lot of spots for innovation in the future.
I would imagine if 5 years from now, if we were thinking about the coolest Halloween costume, it very well may include tech. Yeah. Sure. How about 3D printing and 3D manufacturing? State, near-term future, in the big picture, and in LA. Nick?
Well, I've been using 3D as a manufacturer, whether it's a medical device or anything. It used to be very expensive. We bought the machines to do it. And we used it and we did a lot for our customers and that. Today, you can go to a UPS store and have 3D printing done. It's excellent. Some people might be using it to try to make short-term manufacturing. It really isn't as cheap as it looks. But it's exciting because you get to see what you're visualizing very, very, very quickly. And it's a powerful tool for sampling prototypes, it moved up the development process for all manufacturers. What might have taken you 8, 9, 10 months to design and get to the market, you've got a pretty well, you might have a working model in a month. So it's exciting, and the costs just keep coming down, where there'll be times when you may have these in your home. I'm not sure what you're going to do with them, but you may have them in your home.
Either of you on 3D printing, 3D manufacturing?
3D printing isn't new. It's been around for 20, 30 years. And as Nick mentioned, the biggest thing now is it's affordable, or sort of affordable. It's interesting because if you look at the technology for any 3D printer under, let's say, 4,000 to 5,000, it all uses FDM methods. So what I see happening in the near future, but not so near future, hopefully in the next couple of years, is that technology has to improve. So that you can actually do more with it. The printers that we see, that we use for people like us, is you can prototype so easily, and so you get to see different stuff come out of it. And it's really, really cool, but you want to actually do more than that, right? So in some sense, it's kind of a fad in that way because it is so cool, but when you want to do more, we need more technology to recreate the current state of how 3D printers work. Kickstarter last year had 20 to 30 3D printer projects alone. 1 year. So I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of consolidation. You're going to see some major players come out of it, and hopefully some new technology as well. So we'll see where that goes.
3D printing is just a breakthrough in terms of, like you were saying, of putting into people's hands. And I know that I was at CES last year, and MakerBot said that they were trying to get a MakerBot into every high school in America, so that all of the kids now, it's going to become part of the curriculum. It's not just I take a drawing class, now I take a building class. You know, 100 years ago, you wanted to 3D print something, you were whittling it all summer long. Now it's like an afternoon and it's done, and I know it's very invaluable to us too in the toy industry. We actually use it all the time for quick prototypes and stuff, so it's totally a game changer.
As it were.
As it were.
From a toy manufacturer. I hear talk of a virtual reality boom in LA. Is that accurate, and how can that help take LA, which is a creativity capital, maybe to the next level through virtual reality? Anyone?
Well, I'm not familiar with what's going on in the LA area. I've been a part of, if you went to a Procter & Gamble's headquarters in, I can just tell you what retailers is doing, but if you went to Procter & Gamble in Pittsburgh, if Walmart was coming through there to see about that, they're walking through a Walmart. And the entire thing is how the shelves are stocked, and you know how every store, whether it's a Target or a Walmart, everybody, their aisles are all sort of the same from store to store. And Procter & Gamble they just flip a switch and you're walking around in Walmart, and it's kind of an interesting, so that's how they're using it to help to sell their products.
I can see where that would be huge, you know, to go, I'm Walmart, and I'm still Walmart. Yeah. Either of you, anything on virtual reality?
I mean, obviously, it's going to be huge for the gaming industry. I mean, I think that doesn't even need to be said, I suppose. You know, and there's just so many things you can do in virtual reality, so many experiences you can have that you wouldn't normally have. There's a gentleman actually at the booth next to us in the maker room, and he was taking me through an aquarium. I was like, I've never had the point of view of a fish before, but now I do. And it's just that type of innovation, and it really is going to inspire more people to really create more environments and experience new things.
Very good. And finally, what can the maker movement teach today's youth? How does it involve itself with STEM and STEAM education? Or how can it? How can that potential be tapped for kids coming up? You mentioned it a little bit, that you think there'll be 3D printers in every school, for instance. That's one.
Definitely, and you know, I can speak from the point of view of the toy industry. We're very involved with making toys making play part of our lives, and not just have it be something like, well, I guess I'm 12 now, I don't play with toys anymore. It's very much about like, okay, now I was playing with toys, now how do I make toys? And a lot of the people we work with in the toy industry actually are inventors. So if you have an idea, if you have a new game, a new toy, I was talking with one of the company's owners yesterday, and he was like, wouldn't it be awesome if there was like a group of kids coming up with toy ideas for us? Because, I mean, I can come up with it, but it's been 20 years since I played, with a Hot Wheels. Now it's really interesting to see like a next generation who have these better tools, these 3D printers, these virtual environments, kind of come together and start really creating a new wave of innovation that's going to be coming out of the next generation.
Just as my reaction to what you said is that makes so much sense. In other words, no matter how hard you or any of us try to imagine what it looks like to a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, we can't. The world that they exist in, because of technology, is just different. And so for them to imagine what play looks like and what toy would be fun if I could imagine it, I think would be huge. Your company should do it. Should get them involved.
Yeah, so we've been talking about it.
Yeah. Melissa?
STEM and STEAM are words, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. Science, technology, art, and math. Those are school, right? Those words itself mean nothing. Maker itself is, yes, another word. But the point of it is to promote the learn by doing, to promote the do it yourself, to promote the take it apart, figure out how it works, to promote trying out every single thing to just get a taste of it all, to multitask. That's what the maker movement's about. So yes, STEM and STEAM, how does it collaborate? It collaborates because you want kids to physically understand concepts, not just remember rote memorization. So STEM in school is one thing. Those are tech classes, those are science classes. But how can you physically understand and go through your own eureka moments by doing it yourself? And I think that's the essence of maker movement.
Nick?
I'm a person that I've run manufacturing companies for a very long time, and I can tell you there's a big void in skill sets, and even to the point where sometimes we get new hires that are just out of school, and they really spend a little too much time on books, and they don't necessarily know how things go together. I think this is a real powerful tool. I think you should take advantage of it. I think you should be inquisitive. Don't go taking your parents' cars apart. Don't go do that kind of stuff. But check everything out. I don't think there's enough people. America lost manufacturing. It is now coming back to America. And so there's great opportunities in manufacturing and understanding how things are made. Not just how they work, but how they are made and those skill sets, because you're going to have a whole different respect for a lot of people that made a lot of things that you touch every day. But making things is coming back to America, and you could be a big part of that.
It's interesting. You said material science. You said learn to make things. It is interesting that's something that's got to come. Why is manufacturing coming back to the U.S.?
Well, a lot of it is logistics, and now robotics has played a very big part in it, so I don't necessarily need 50 people to do something today. I might be able to get by with 15 people to do that today. But I think America has got some very, very bright and talented people. As a manufacturer, our largest customer base is in the tech industry. We sell to people that make chips and everything else. All those factories, and we had to put a warehouse over in Singapore. Now they're moving everything back to America. May not be coming to California, but it's coming back. Things like the Tesla automobile, those batteries, they're going to be making those batteries. Everybody's worried about Nevada getting that battery plant. They're going to be making those batteries for the world because they do it better than anybody else right now. So I think a lot of people started to say, wow, we got a lot of talent here. We're going to take advantage of it. The cost has changed. The cost of getting things to Asia and back is a bit prohibitive, but there's a lot of talent here. And that's what I think people are taking advantage of. We don't want to be a retail society. We want to get back to what we were famous for and what we were legendary in, and that's making.
Is part of it, I've read a bit about this. One is, of course, energy costs have gone up. 2, labor costs have gone up where we used to get cheap labor. But part of it has to do with 3D manufacturing and the ability to do prototypes so much more quickly and move through phases so much more quickly, you might as well stay here?
Yeah. Yeah, it's you know, to be able to build everything in one building, I can tell you I had a separate factory 12 miles away. It could have been on another continent. It was that difficult to communicate. And I think to have everything in one place, and probably more than anything else, as manufacturing expands in America, you get the subcontractors, the people that make the parts that are going to go in our final assemblies. They're now back in the U.S., so you're going to have to ship those parts over there and get them back. So it's an exciting thing. It's great for the economy. It is a tremendous opportunity for you. Get those engineering degrees, get those tech degrees, get the, computer sciences. You know, don't say I'm not good at math, because it's really not genetic. So work hard at that stuff, because I'm telling you, the manufacturing is going to be a real big wave of opportunity in America.
Okay, finally, last thing, got about 2-3 minutes. Each of you, kind of a closing statement of your vision of the maker movement in 5 years, and in LA as much as you can visualize it that way. Melissa?
Sure. I wanted to add one thing to what
Sure,
Nick was saying
go right
as well. In terms of manufacturing and where talent is, I think talent is all over the world, and I think a big reason why there might be more manufacturing coming here or more creativity, pardon, I just said it, more going on here in the United States is the creativity. India has more engineers, India and China have more engineers and scientists than anywhere else in the world, simply because of population numbers. But the reason that there's more patents anywhere else in the world here in the US is because of our creativity and the critical thinking that we're promoting in our youth. So where's the maker movement in 5 years? Gosh, who knows, right? I think that we're gonna see a lot of cool tech. I think we're gonna see a lot of cool hands-on projects. I think we need to see a lot more innovations coming out of our youth. And there's maker fairs, maker cons, STEAM carnivals going on. I think those are going to become more commonplace, and those are going to become something that everybody's doing. A lot of people are talking about coding from early ages. So you learn to code, so what? What can you do with that? What comes next? And I think those questions are going to be answered by what we actually create.
Okay.
It's a brilliant question, actually. Where will the maker movement be in 5 years? Because to be honest, I think the people sitting in the audience are the ones who are going to be dictating that, because the maker movement is referential in itself, that it's creating its own dynamic as it goes. I know that the group that I work with, the Spin Master, we're actually just acquired a Rector set, and so we're planning on lots of new things with the Rector set, and it's that also people in manufacturing and people in the maker movement putting tools in other people's hands and really building that community. And I particularly love something you said, where this is a global movement. And I would love to really see this become even more of a global movement, where I'm a 12-year-old app programmer working with a 15-year-old app programmer in India or France or wherever, just because virtual reality and Skyping and everything, you can work simultaneously. I mean, I'm sure Nick would reference this. We manufacture in Hong Kong and China and in Taiwan, and every week I'm working with guys over there through video conferences, and I kind of see that that's going to be happening too with makers, that they're going to be connecting with people all over the world, and these groups are going to keep popping up everywhere. There's a maker fair in Hong Kong right now, and a maker fair in China, and one in Austin, Texas. There's one everywhere you could possibly go. There's a maker fair popping up. So
very good. You get the last word, Nick.
I think to engage the people here, the next step is to actually get you inside of some places that make things, so you see how some things are made. Next Wednesday, I'm hosting 30. Now they're 39-year-olds. It's just going to really be a challenge for me. But they're gonna get the tour, they're gonna see the whole thing, and the final part of it is, in a very controlled environment, they're actually going to make something that they get to take with them. So I think exposing them and seeing machines and seeing processes, and the whole day is done with, like, you went to your math class, you went to your art class, you went to your social studies, and you went to your language class. And we're doing it so that somebody says, oh God, I got to go to language class or I got to go to math class. Well, this is why you need to go to math class, and this is why you need to understand different languages. We print labels in 8 languages today, and you got to proofread those. So I think getting you guys into places to see things being made would be a great exposure, and I think that would be to embrace the manufacturing people. I think it would be great.
Okay. Nick, Melissa, Chris, thank you very much.